Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Dee, and this is Dee's Reading Lounge, where I'm sharing my love for reading at my own pace. Happy New Year, you all. We made it to another year. I'm so grateful to be here for another year. Thank you so much for those who have supported my channel by watching, subscribing. I really do appreciate your continued support. If you're new here, I started this channel back in September. I've been enjoying making these videos. I do read a variety of books. My favorite books are historical fiction, nonfiction, specifically African American history. I'm delving into thriller because although I do like to watch thriller movies, I never really thought about reading thrillers for some reason. So I'm delving into thrillers, and also I'm going to be dipping my toe in a little bit of romance. I do have a small collection of romance novels as well. So if that is of interest to you, I do invite you to join by subscribing if you think you might be interested in those type of things. So on this channel, I primarily do all things bookish. I do bookish vlogs that does include a little bit of lifestyle because I like to share bits and pieces here and there of my life while I am updating you or talking about the books that I'm reading. I do recent reads videos. That's where I go over the books that I've read recently. I don't do monthly wrap ups. I may do it here and there, but for the most part, I do recent reads because I tend to read slow. I like to take time with my books to make sure that I'm comprehending the books and I am understanding the books. I feel like if I rush through it, I'm going to miss something. And so I do take my time with my reading. So let's go ahead and get into this little bookish chat. I was watching everybody's video talking about their favorite books of the year and things like that. And then I thought about the books that I have read. Now, being that I've only been on this platform not a full year, I don't really have a whole lot of favorites. And to be honest with you, I think I started off my reading kind of influenced by what other people were reading, even though I'm interested in those genres. I started off reading a lot of thrillers, and that's although I do like the genre, it's not really something that I would be drawn to pick up and read like right away. So I started off this channel reading a lot of thrillers, and I really can't really tell you that out of the thrillers that I have read, that any were my favorite. Let me think about that though. Let me see. I did read The Perfect Marriage, and although I did like that book, I can't really say it was like my favorite. I didn't rate it a 5 star, even though the ending was pretty good. I still would not call it a favorite. I read a lot of new authors that didn't work out for me. I delved into Frida McFadden. Now that is one author I can say that I do. Okay, y'all. So I just got cut off because I am using this microphone. I had it clipped down here, and it went out. It went out. I did a whole video, probably 15 minutes worth of talking that just did not record the sound. So I am back to record the other half of this video. So hopefully I can remember what I said. I think I was talking about Frida McFadden, that I was introduced to her. I read about 3 of her books that I really did like. So I do really like her. I typically like popcorn thriller movies, and so she's right up my alley. I did enjoy The Teacher. I read The Housemaid. I wouldn't say The Teacher was like a favorite book or anything like that. I wouldn't even say The Housemaid was a favorite book, although I did like that because I did read that book as well. I did not read a whole lot of historical fiction. I don't know why. I guess I just got caught up, like I said, reading or being influenced by other books that other people were reading, specifically thrillers, because I read a lot of thrillers, but I didn't really have any favorites in that category, not really. So I do want to share what my favorites are. I only have 2, and they're both nonfiction memoirs. So I'm going to go ahead and just share those with you. In the first book, this book right here, this is Viola Davis's Finding Me. I have recommended this to all of my family, my friends, co-workers, and I'm recommending it to you. If you have not read this book, what are you waiting for? This is such a good book, especially if you have watched Viola over the years. How to Get Away with Murder, that was one of her biggest shows. This lady has overcame so many odds to be a Black woman in Hollywood, not only a black woman, but a dark-skinned black woman. She tells her story in its rawest form. Some of the things that she went through, especially her upbringing, her childhood, and things like that, were very tumultuous. She really did not hold back. There was one thing that she did touch on, but I felt like she could have expanded more, but it probably was too painful, and it involved like a family member. But besides that, she gives it all to you. She really does not hold back. And I was so inspired by reading her story. She answered all the questions that I had when I would see her in movies, specifically why she took on certain roles. And now I have the answer to that. And I just really do admire her even more, having read about her story. This was definitely a 5-star book for me, a favorite book for me. And the next one was this one, The Sun Does Shine by Anthony Ray Hinton. I spoke about this book in my recent reads video. You can look that up. It was my recent one, I think. I'm not sure. But this is about a man who was sentenced to about 30 years in prison on death row for a crime he did not commit. He went to prison, I think, in his mid-20s, and he was about close to 60, I think, 60 when he got out. And all the things that he went through. When I was reading this book, I felt like I was in prison or on death row with him. That is how powerful this story was told. So this is his lived experience, but he also had someone who helped write the book for him, which was Laura Love Hardin. And also his lawyer was Brian Stevenson. If it was not for him pushing through and not caring about monetary gain, he probably would still be in prison, I would say. If it was not for him believing that he would see justice, he probably would have died on death row. But this book did make me cry. It really did touch my heart. It was very heart-wrenching. Beautiful, beautiful story. Painful, but beautiful, because he did, well, I'm not going to tell you. Yeah, it was such a good book. Such a good book. Those are the only two like favorites that I had. I didn't have a great year in reading because I, started so late. I didn't have opportunity to read a whole lot of books. So I'm going to next talk about the authors that I want to get into in 2025. Now, these are not all of the authors that I want to experience. However, these authors that I'm going to show and talk about are high on the list. So the first author I'm going to talk about is Kristen Hanna. So I have not heard anything negative about this author. Everybody who talks about her books rave about her books. Everybody seems to love her books. I have some of her books, her like earlier works. I don't think this is like a recent book, but I'm just discovering this book, and so are other people. So she's one of the authors that I really want to experience in 2025, Kristen Hanna. And so the next author that I want to get into is J. California Cooper. I read this book years and years ago. I need to reread it. That's how good this book was. Now, I don't remember every specific detail about this story, but I do know it follows several people in their personal lives. Like, I think it was maybe told in I'm not sure. I think this is historical fiction, but this book follows many characters. And even though it does follow a lot of characters, I do remember not feeling like I'm lost, because sometimes when books do follow a lot of characters in their point of view, I don't think it's told that way. It's not told in a point of view manner or fashion, but it does have a lot of characters. Their stories were so sad and bleak. However, you just fell in love with the characters and the way she told their stories, just humanized them. And I just love that about how she wrote this book. And so I'm eager to get into her other works. If you watch my last big haul, I purchased about nearly all of her books used, and I got them for a really good price. So I'm really excited into finally getting to this wonderful author. And so the next author that I want to get into is Jesmyn Ward. I read her memoir Loved it. I think I rated this a 4.5 if I'm not mistaken. This is told in a narrative form. It's almost like reading a book. So she tells her life story, but not only that, she tells the story of 5 men that she's lost in her life that were either family members or close friends or people that she knew. And the way they died was very tragic. So the book was sad because she was brought up in, she's my age, like the deep South, Louisiana. There was a lot of poverty, a lot of no opportunities for, her family and things like that. She talked about her dad and her mom having to raise them, and family dynamics and conflict and things like that that she navigated through. She actually went to, I'm not sure what school or college she went to, but she was able to graduate and go on to get her doctorate. I want to say she has a doctorate because she's a professor at the University of Michigan. This was a great read. I've never read a memoir told like in a narrative form. It's almost like reading a book. But it was a really good. So I am interested in reading more from this author because I do have several of her works as well that mostly were purchased used at a good deal. So the next author that I want to get into is Miss Sadiqa Johnson. This is The Yellow Wife. I was supposed to read this back in December, but life, Christmas, the holidays, I didn't get to it, y'all. I did not get to it, but I have purchased several of her books, and I really want to get into her work. One thing I don't want to do is continue purchasing books from these authors that I want to read, and I haven't read one book from them. So I did a lot of that in 2024, and to be honest with you, I did go crazy at the tail end, and I purchased all of the authors that I wanted or books that I wanted to read to get it out of my system, because one of my goals for 2025 was to read more and buy less. And I really do want to stick to that commitment because I have other priorities, financial wise, and, goals and things like that. So I went a little crazy and I purchased all of the books that I wanted to read. And so let me know if you would like to see that haul. I can definitely show that. So I have this book and I have, I think, 2 other books from her. So eager to get into The Yellow Wife. And then I think that's it. So quickly, I'm going to show you or talk about my TBR for January. And so I am going to be doing participating in a read along hosted by Freeform Lady. She has a YouTube channel. She's been making videos for quite some time. If you want to hear all about the read along and participate, you can go over to her channel and she does give details. But I'm going to be participating because I really want to get into my favorite genre, which is historical fiction. And this happens to be just that. This is Cane River by Lolita Tatamy. And just a brief synopsis, it says, on a Creole plantation on the banks of Louisiana Cane River, 4 generations of astonishing women battle injustice to unite their families and forge success in their own right. So the women lives are followed from slavery through the Civil War and then the early years of emancipation. And so it's going to be like a family saga of Black women. And so right up my alley. Can't wait to read along with her and the other people that are participating in her read along. So that's Cane River. And then because that book is a little over 500 pages, I'm not going to have a whole lot of time. And so I wanted to pick books that I probably can get through. So I am going to be reading book number 2 from Frida McFadden, The Housemaid's Secret. I just recently read book number 1 and I did like that. I think I rated a 3.5. And so I'm going to read this because she was a new author to me, and I really like her because her books are palate cleansers for me. And I love popcorn thrillers like Lifetime movies. Her books read like Lifetime movies. So in that aspect, it's really not that unique. At least some of the books that I've read, they're not unique because they remind me of Lifetime movies, but I love those movies. They're quick. She gets right to the point. They're not overcomplicated. It doesn't take a whole lot of buildup or suspense, but her twists are crazy. And so I really have been enjoying this writer. So I'm going to read this because I know that'll be a quick and easy read for me. And then I do have two choices for the last book. So I'm going to just be reading three because that's already a lot for me. So book number 3 is either going to be Toni Morrison's Home. And I did talk about this in my big massive haul. You can check that out if you want to hear more about that. I'm not going to get into that in this video. Yeah, I wanted to start with something slim with her because with Toni Morrison's books, I tried to listen to The Bluest Eye on audio a couple months ago, and I had to keep rewinding and rewinding because her stories, the way she tells the story is so complex. Listening to it on audio just is not going to do it. I actually need to have the physical book, turning the pages, eyes on the paper. That is how I am going to tackle Toni Morrison. I can't do an audiobook with her. So this book is very short. It's 145 pages, and so very quick, easy read, and I should be able to get through that one. So either that or Miss Beverly Jenkins Josephine. And she is one of the authors that I want to explore too in 2025. And she writes historical romances. And I've heard nothing but good things about this author. And I did talk about this in a previous video as well. So that is pretty much it, you guys. My reading journey in 2024 was very meh, very, very bland. I didn't have a whole lot of reads, so I really couldn't do like my 10 favorite books of the year because I just did not have a lot of books that stood out, honestly. And so I'm hoping to change that in 2025 because I have so many books and I want to read so many authors, new authors. Everybody's pretty much new to me because, as I said before, I started out reading African American history nonfiction, and then the historical fiction branched off the nonfiction. But now I'm dipping my toes into a little thriller, a little romance. And so I'm just, open to reading a lot of genres this year. And I'm hoping to have a much more interesting reading year. So thank you so much for watching, supporting my channel. If you're interested in my content, don't forget to subscribe, like, because I would love to have you here in my little corner of the internet. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.